Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever episode of the Working in Hockey podcast. I am your host, founder, whatever you want to call me, Nick Bowins. As you guys have seen on socials, we have a newsletter, we have social channels, and we have a podcast. The podcast here we're going to be using to interview and question and dive deep on everybody that's working in the hockey industry today, what they're up to, how they found their roles, how they like it, really put them on the stand and grill them here. So without further ado, first guest, good buddy, had to make it happen here initially. Tyler Madarasz. He is the producer of NHL Morning Skate. He co-hosts it on the radio from 7 to 8 a.m. weekday mornings. SiriusXM Radio. You can see the logo there. Tyler, how we doing, buddy?
Good, man. Good. Thanks for having me. Pumped to do this. Pumped to listen to this podcast moving forward. Great idea by you, and honored to be on.
My pleasure. And we've done some of this together before, so figured you were a good guest to start with here. But I think you also have just a very relatable journey through kind of hockey, media, everything. You went to the College of Sports Media, which we'll get into here. But overall, I think your story will resonate pretty well with people. So first and foremost, tell the people what you do as a producer for SiriusXM NHL Network Radio.
Yeah, it's been a ride to get to be a producer at NHL Network Radio, but it's been a really fun ride. So day to day, as a producer, you're booking guests, you're making sure the show runs smoothly first of all, and we have a 4-hour show, so it's a pretty long radio show. So I'm on 7 to 8. I'm helping my board operator kind of get us ready for the show, get some post game clips, get some goal clips, and then I'm on the air with one of our hosts. And then for the next 2 hours, our two main hosts, who are Gord Stellick and Scott Lachlan, who have both been in the industry for a really long time. Obviously, Gord was a GM of an NHL team, not a big deal, but yeah, they're two great radio hosts who have done it for a long time. They do 2 hours together, and then our final hour of the show, we usually have another host who's usually an NHL player come in. So let's say a Mike Johnson or a Martin Biron, an Andrew Raycroft, a Frankie Corrado, someone like that to kind of bring that flair in our final hour of the show. So it's a long show. Trying to book great guests all season. That's the goal, to get some really good GMs, coaches, and players. And yeah, that's all we can do to give 4 hours of good content to all the listeners out there.
Yeah, good content for sure. Like you said, some pretty household names, some big names on the show all the time there. When you're working those early morning shows, obviously with the morning skate, what sort of hours are you working for that job? How does it all line up day to day?
Yeah, so the mornings are early, usually getting up somewhere between 5 and 5:30, depending if I'm going to the studio or not. But we try to be in studio as much as we can, and then the show stops at 11. But as a producer, you're kind of working throughout the afternoon. Who do I have tomorrow? Let's just say, who do I have the next day? Is there an event coming up on Friday where I have to book a specific guest? So you're kind of looking at your week, and you're working a little throughout the afternoon, and then man, you're working at night. Like, I love hockey, you love hockey. We all watch it from 7 to 1 or whenever, but you're watching hockey when it starts every weekday night. So then you're watching on the weekends just for yourself. But it's a long day. People think you're done 7 to 11 and that's your shift, but there's a lot more that goes into it.
Yep, they don't play hockey games in the morning, so you always got to be on at night, like you said, kind of digesting what's happening, taking in what's going on around the game. But you've been there for a minute now. You've definitely seen your role evolve and change over time. How long you been there, and kind of how did you first get your foot in the door there?
Yeah, I think in a couple months it might be 11 years, so just over a decade, let's say. It's been a long time. But it all happened with the College of Sports Media, which we'll get into. Ended up going there, and there's a guaranteed internship at the end of the 2-year program. And I had never heard of SiriusXM NHL Network Radio before. I did not have it. My parents didn't have it in their car. And good on David Lannis, who ran the school. He put me and my buddy Jake at NHL Network Radio. Guess he saw our passion for hockey. And you intern, there's no job, so you're kind of just trying to apply at different places. I think I must have applied at 100 plus different jobs throughout Canada and every province imaginable, and then kind of just like stayed on the program director via email, like maybe every couple months, just being like, hey, any job here, any job, and then all of a sudden something came up where you can come in, learn how to operate the board, and it all kind of went on from there. So you almost just have to stay on it, and really just send some emails out and hope one sticks.
You kind of segued perfectly there to the College of Sports Media, obviously a well-renowned spot, and I would assume a good proportion of our initial listeners definitely went to the program there. How'd you kind of land on the decision to that? What was your experience overall attending there?
Just being really bad at regular school kind of led me to the College of Sports Media. I knew I wanted to do something in media. Like I remember in high school, I took a grade 12 media class, and other than like gym and music, it was probably my most influential or like favorite class I took through 4 years of high school. And I'm like, man, I think I can do something in sports media. And then I landed at Laurier doing communications, which has nothing to do with media or anything. Great school, but just the wrong program for me. And then I had my godmother worked at TSN, so I was just like reaching out to her asking for advice. I'm like, I can't do another year doing communications. Like it wasn't for me at all because I wanted to get into sports. And she's just like, all right, like there's a college, a private college in Toronto. That means I can move home if I ended up getting into the college, which I luckily did. There's kind of like a tryout process, and she told me about the College of Sports Media, got in, and kind of just ran from it from there. And I knew there was a guaranteed internship at the end, which obviously is a great thing. Like depending on where you go, whether it's TV, radio, camera, editing, like if you have an internship, you have your foot in the door, and that's just really the biggest thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And I think the internship is often looked over when applying to schools, considering schools. And I mean, maybe today with my day job a little bit, you see some interns that are a little bit overestimating the dollar figure attached to internships and co-ops, but at the end of the day, it's that real world experience and it's that exposure like you got, right? And I was the same. I went to Waterloo because they had five co-op programs. My decision came down to Brock and Waterloo. Brock had one, Waterloo had five. I said, perfect, I'll do five because that's five chances to get my foot in the door somewhere. And that's kind of the mindset that I had with it. What other volunteering experiences or internships, co-ops did you pick up along the way?
Yeah, a lot of that came through the College of Sports Media, which was great. Like we got to do play-by-play in color for university sports. Like how cool is that? Like if you had asked me in high school that I'd be doing play-by-play or color commentary for anything, like not at a professional level, but just like at a university college level, I would have been like, you're crazy. So that was one of the best things. I worked one of the Memorial Cups as well through the College of Sports Media in Mississauga, which was a great experience. Just like getting to watch Mem Cup games, like as a hockey fan, was awesome. You were working a lot of the time, but kind of just being around the Memorial Cup as a whole was really cool. And then not really a volunteering experience, but it kind of landed through CSM and through my godmother working at TSN. But like I got to work the 2012 Olympics, which was great. So learned how to do that on the TV side. Kind of realized the TV side wasn't for me, and I was kind of glad the internship at SiriusXM worked out because it was the radio side which I wanted to focus on, but was really cool seeing the TV side of things as well.
Since we're kind of working backwards here chronologically, like take me back to a young Tyler. When did you first get involved in hockey? Find that passion for it. What was that day when you went, shit, I'm gonna work in hockey. Like that's the goal. That's what I'm working towards.
Yeah, it was probably at some point in elementary school, maybe like sixth, seventh, or eighth grade. Like I was one of those kids before school. I'd wake up at 6, I'd watch Sports Center, I'd watch it again. I'd usually watch it twice before I went to school, and then I'd be reading the paper. I'd just read the sports section. All the other sections didn't even mean anything to me. And at that point, I'm just like, man, like hockey's great. I liked other sports, like I loved baseball, I liked basketball and football, but hockey was the one that really spoke to me. It was the one I played the most as well as a kid. So probably when I was like getting close to high school, I was like, I need to do something in hockey. I know I can't play the game at a professional level because I'm not that good. But I liked watching sports. I liked watching hockey. I liked listening to the play-by-play and color commentary guys a lot. I thought that was a route at some point as well, and I loved listening to it whether it was on the radio or TV. So I knew at some point, and really, Nick, I got really lucky to like be specialized in hockey because not a lot of people can.
No, I think that's well said. And like you said, it's a competitive, tricky market, and you got to get good and you got to get lucky, right? It takes a little bit of both, potentially outside of hockey. But what was your first ever job in high school or whatever it was?
So I think my official first job was a referee for hockey. I remember
Okay.
going through like the school and stuff, so it kind of makes sense. It was also kind of like a camp counselor. I think that came a little after being a ref. But camp counseling was fun. Didn't even do any sports stuff, which was crazy at those camps. But being a ref was awesome. I used to yell at the refs all the time, and all of a sudden I was getting yelled at by parents and some of the kids out there. So I kind of saw it in a different sense. But yeah, hockey job, shocking.
I guess I'm not surprised with that one. And then I guess with your current role, like being a host, a producer, networking is basically everything. And for the most part, when it comes to finding a job, networking is everything in that regard too. So, I've seen at different events with you and whatnot, like just having those relationships with different people, different avenues, different industries. Networking is so crucial for what you do and for finding a job. Talk to me a little bit about how you've kind of grown your network through this job and how that's developed into all these different relationships.
Yeah, really, it's just starting and keeping relationships that you think are worthwhile. Like you're not going out and picking and choosing who to talk to, but if you're at an event, like try to talk to as many people as you can. If you're working on as a board operator on a radio show, try to talk to the guests, try to talk to these people that maybe can lead you to relationships in the future. And that's what I've just tried to do. Like it's grown for about 10 years now, but having relationships with guys that come on the channel often is really key, and then you see them at events, you end up becoming friends. It's a big part of it, and it's kind of easier now too with like a lot of social media. Like when I was at CSM, like we had just gotten Twitter, for example. I don't even know if Instagram was a thing, but really not a lot of people had it. A couple people did, but it's way easier to network now if you're keeping on Twitter, keeping on Instagram, giving someone a follow, getting a follow back, maybe keeping in contact in DM. So I would suggest that as well. That's been a big part of my day to day now, moving forward as a producer. And yeah, it's big to network. You almost have to do it.
Yeah, 100%. I think there's two things that I'll pick on that you mentioned there. The one being kind of attending events and seeing different people there. I always try to urge people and tell people that when you go to an event and you go, oh, I'm kind of nervous, I don't want to talk to that person, should I go up to them? They're thinking the exact same damn thing. Like
Hmm.
everybody at those events in sports or in hockey is in the exact same shoes or were in the exact same shoes that you are, right? So more often than not, they're open to a conversation, they're open to an introduction. And like you said, you never know where those go. And then social media, same thing. Like I always say you truly have to be networking with social media because that's what it is there for. It is a social network. And it might feel forced and networking might be a buzzword, but to take the 3 seconds to swipe up on somebody's story and say, yo, I love this, and you have a
Hmm.
connection and a network right away. If somebody posts something in hockey and you're like, oh, I'd love to work there, or oh, that's a really cool video, just tell them that. That's networking. That's how you start it, and then it builds relationships, right? And I'm sure you've done that a million and one times in your role.
Well, I think that's something you're really good at, and working with Hockey Collective, like you guys do that, and that's what makes the brand so big and so successful. A lot of people are scared to do that, whether it's on Instagram or even in real life. Like I was one of those people where I'm just like, man, I don't think my personality is gonna make me want to go say hi to all these people and introduce myself as like, hey, I'm a board operator at SiriusXM NHL Network Radio. Like, nice to meet you. They're not gonna care who I am, but at the end of the day, you might meet 5 years down the line and end up having a relationship within some sort of job in the industry. So it's huge. I've done way more of it now on social media in regards to a lot of hockey stuff. I think you guys taught me a lot of that because it's very key. You need to do it. And then, yeah, that's why you guys have been so successful.
Man, I tell everybody that it's easy. It's easy. Like, yes, it can take some courage and some nerve and what am I gonna say? If you want to walk up to somebody in person, that can be difficult the first couple times, right? But on social media, like, don't want to say everybody's just a keyboard warrior or they're hiding behind their screen or anything, but in a way, you are to your benefit when you're trying to network, right? Like I say, if you're already following somebody, reach out, send them a DM, reply to their story, comment on their post. It's the easiest base level of networking, but I can't even begin to tell you the number of times that it has paid off for myself and Hockey Collective, like you say. Kind of spiraling off of that, though, like just general advice. I'm sure you get people reaching out to you all the time, kind of how do I get into your spot, your company, etc. What sort of advice do you give for somebody maybe attending college sports media today or somebody who just reaches out?
Yeah, really work your hardest because like at the College of Sports Media, you can think it's a breeze. Like to be like, yeah, I want to be on TV. I want to be an anchor on Sportsnet or TSN. It's not that easy. Like it really isn't that easy. Oh, I want to be a cameraman or I want to be an editor. It's not that easy. You have to work for it. And maybe there's not like official homework at the College of Sports Media, just as an example, but you still have to stay on every single sport. Like I'm specialized in hockey now, which I'm grateful for. There's 32 teams. I follow them all, but at CSM, you're following every single sport. You got to know every single division of every major sports team. Like if you like golf or tennis, you know every golfer, you know every tennis player that is out there. So you got to stay on it. Like there's really no days off when it comes to following sports or just working in it, and moving forward. You just can't give up. A lot of people that take the route, whether going to university or going to college, or let's just say the College of Sports Media, after their 2 or 4 year program is up, they're just like, man, maybe this isn't for me. Like if you really want to do it, just continue to move forward, continue to push, continue to network, send emails, apply for jobs. It's all about experience and really pushing towards that end goal, which is working in the media industry or working in hockey. And you just got to push for that.
Yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice is kind of grind when others aren't grinding. And like
Mm-hmm.
you said, these programs can feel easy at times and they might feel lax because, you're watching sports, you're talking with your buddies, and I definitely experienced some of that myself where it's like, oh, this course is a breeze. We're just talking about hockey, whatever. But, it's the grind when others aren't grinding that sets you apart and helps you land that. In terms of other ways that you stay up to date, obviously you're watching hockey every night, you're staying up to date with news around the league and stuff, but when it comes more so to your job, how are you staying up to date, kind of current with technologies? Obviously, you've seen a lot change in media in your 10 plus years there, from podcasts like this to how radio's evolved to video, everything in between. How are you staying up to date with everything?
Just staying on social media, really. Like that's all it is. Like when I was at CSM, I barely was on Twitter. There was like Facebook was around, but it wasn't really like a social media tool to get into sports. And then Instagram kind of became a thing and obviously became huge, but you just have to stay on it. And for following hockey in general or just following sports, like you need your phone, you need a laptop. Like I wouldn't be following the NHL as well as I do without the NHL app or without NHL.com. Like we're not focused on one team, we're focused on all 32. It's really hard to keep up at times, especially because someone working in hockey has other interests. Like you like golf, you like baseball, you love the NFL. Like you're keeping up to date with those things as well, but you also have to keep up to date with the NHL, maybe even the KHL if you're following that, and following junior leagues as well. So it's all about networking. It's all about staying on social media. And yeah, it can get tough at times and maybe a little overwhelming, but at the end of the day, it's all what we love to do. So it doesn't even feel like work at times.
Yeah, I think that's the main point there. And like you say, probably anybody listening to this or tuning into the newsletter feels that genuine love and passion for the game, right? And that's what you have to be because you mentioned the hours that you work. You mentioned when hockey games are played at night, everything in between. You have to find a kind of work-life balance still. It can be hectic at times. I'm sure right now around trade deadline and playoffs, especially for you. But when you're doing something that you love, that line gets blurred a little bit in a positive way for sure.
It's funny. Playoffs are right around the corner. Like our job gets easier because
Hmm,
I have to know every single player on all 32 teams, virtually whoever's getting called up.
true.
Like we all have to know this. Then it gets cut in half. We just have to focus on 16 teams, and then that gets cut in half, and so on and so forth. Like when the playoffs come around, it's obviously the best time of the year as a hockey fan. Like the first round of the NHL playoffs, I'm sure you'll agree, Nick. Like it's the best thing in sports, without a doubt. Stanley Cup Finals, great. There's 2 teams left, but man, when you have 16 teams battling for that first round win, it's all so fun. And yeah, our job gets easier once the playoffs start. So that's for sure.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Actually, I hadn't thought of it that way, but like you said, you and I could talk for hours about how good this first round's going to be this year. That's the best 2, 3 weeks of the season. I'm fired up for it. But Tyler, thank you again for the time here. Going to wrap us up with a little bit of rapid fire. Just give me kind of what comes to your mind here. And again, guys, be sure to check out our newsletter. It's going to come out once a week with all open jobs in hockey, providing updates there. Podcasts are going to be weekly here as well. So, Tyler, rapid fire, you ready here?
Yeah, let's go.
Favorite memory or experience from working in hockey?
Favorite memory or experience? Honestly, All-Star Weekend this past year, like a couple months ago in Toronto. You were there. I saw you there. It had to be that. It was so fun. Just like meeting a lot of people that we work with on a daily basis that we never really see because maybe they live in the States or another province. It had to be All-Star Weekend. It was a blast.
Hardest part about working in hockey or sports industry?
It's the hours. Like I started doing nights. I was working 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. You have to do it. You have to do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then after that, for like 5 straight years, I was working 1 week day shift, 1 week night shift,
Hmm.
so on and so forth. That was hard. And now I'm on morning. So whether you don't want to stay up at night, don't want to wake up in the morning, you just have to bite the bullet and do it.
Yeah, all about being adaptable. Good coworkers mean the world. They make all the difference, right? Shout out one person, coworker, boss that has helped you the most along the way.
Wow, there's so many people. A lot of people come to mind. I think the guy that I work with now, Gord Stellick, like he's been he has had a big impact on my life because at some points I wanted to give up and just leave SiriusXM and be like, man, maybe it's not for me. Like it's been 8, 9 years. Maybe I can go do something else and I don't know, work in construction or something like that. But you have people that push you. Gord was one that pushed me, and I think he's had an impact on a lot of people in the media industry over the last 20, 25 years. So I'd have to give a shout out to him.
Well deserved, Gord. Well deserved. Top skill that you've developed in your career at SiriusXM.
Top skill, that's a great question. Maybe just speaking on the radio and not feeling nerves because the first couple years, first couple shows you do, like you think every word that's going to come out of your mouth, you're going to screw up. And you know what? You don't. You listen to it back, you're like, man, that was actually pretty smooth. I think it's just talking and being confident in what you say. Hopefully, everything you say is accurate, but just being confident in every single word that you say.
Favorite hockey or sports venue that you've been able to go through?
It's another good question. Favorite venue that I've been to? I guess it's Madison Square Garden. Like I got to go to MSG. I know you went to a game there recently as well. MSG almost felt like a dream when I walked in
Yeah.
there. Really cool experience seeing all the Rangers fans wherever they're from, like New York City, somewhere outside of New York. Like that was the coolest experience for me, and just being like chirped by Rangers fans was awesome.
No, it feels like a different world there. It's such a special environment. Coolest person that you've gotten to meet through working in hockey?
Yeah, coolest person. There's so many people that have come through the studio. Maybe at All Star Weekend, and I talk to this guy weekly, but just finally getting to meet him. I met him another time, but Bruce Boudreau, like Bruce Boudreau is the best personality maybe ever in hockey. Like he had a great playing career, played for the Maple Leafs, killed the American Hockey League, and now works with us on a daily basis. Obviously, I want to see him get behind the bench, but I've met him a couple times. But then like getting to hang out with him at All Star Weekend was a really a big thrill for me.
Last question of the rapid fire segment here. Did you enjoy the show, Ty?
I love the show. I'm going to be tuning in weekly. I will be on the newsletter. I just know how hard it is to get into hockey and stay in hockey, especially if you're like not doing well, let's say, or you can't get a reply back from an email. I will be listening weekly, and I hope this helps a lot of people. I think it will.
Perfect. Well, if Tyler's tuning in, you guys better be too. So, like I say, weekly podcasts, weekly newsletters. Welcome to Working in Hockey. My name's Nick Bowins. Reach out to me on any of the socials, either at Working in Hockey or at Nick Bowins 8 on most platforms. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.